You're watching the VSO Gun Channel. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about suppressors again. And I guess where I would start this morning is whether we appreciate the compromise that has been made with the big bloated backstab bill that reduced the NFA tax to $0 instead of doing what they should have done, which is completely deregulate NFA items like the short barrel rifle, short barrel shotgun, AOW, and suppressor. Didn't do that. Went wet noodle on us. Whether we appreciate that they did that or not, the truth of the matter is that a $0 tax does change the landscape in the suppressor market quite considerably, and we've seen its effects in the market already. So what I have decided to do is that I'm going to go back through my content throughout the years as it relates to informational content on suppressors and kind of revamp it with the lensing of a $0 tax. Even though registration still exists and registration is the main problem, I don't like it. You don't like it. But that's the deck that we're currently playing with. And when it comes to the Second Amendment, it is increasingly clear that all of our elected officials are totally fine with the American people playing all the games with a euchre deck. To accomplish this redux, I've got a new playlist on the top of the channel. It's called So You Want to Buy a Silencer. I'm going to fill that three ways. Old content that is still relevant, new content that takes into account the change, and then hopefully the biggest category, your guys' questions. If you got a really good question or you're the originator of that question, I will give you a shout out in the video. I put up this post yesterday and you guys have already blown the script. So the first video has to be, what do I think is going to happen to suppressor prices, availability, and most importantly, wait times for those transfers in 2026 after that takes effect. So in this video, I'm going to tell you first what I believe is going to happen. And that's supported by conversations that I've had with suppressor manufacturers, retailers, other shops, et cetera, et cetera. What kind of controls are in place that may impact that? What I'm doing for my local clientele that want to get into these items, and then what you can do to hopefully limit your negative consequences. We'll put it that way. All that and more after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by XS Sights. This is a company that I have been working with for a long period of time. I think that they are probably the longest running sponsor of the channel, and I greatly appreciate them supporting the mission here at VSO Gun Channel. They are my chosen defensive sight. Doesn't matter whether we're talking rifle, shotgun, or pistol. They've got an offering out there. And I wanted to bring to your guys' attention today that they have a Labor Day sale going on. Tritium night sights can be expensive. So I usually advocate that folks stock up during the sale months and when they've got holiday sales like this going on. This sale runs through the 8th of September. Go get it. And special thanks to XS for making today's video possible. First item of business, the price of the actual suppressor, as in the physical item, right now is probably as low as you're going to see it for the next 2 years. You might see some Black Friday sales coming up that you might do a little bit better on, but just consider that that's going to be a few percentage points. Right now, if you're eyeballing an item, that's as cheap as it's going to get for the next 2 years or so. And let me explain why. Right now, suppressor retailers, manufacturers, and distributors are reporting record low sales of these devices. I mean, we're talking, I spoke to two specifically, and they said that the months of July and August 2025 were the worst sale numbers that they have ever had in their existence. That tells me people just didn't suddenly stop being interested in these things. They've just said, hey, you know what? Tax is going away in January. We're just going to wait to buy that item until that tax falls off, which is entirely logical. Now, again, spoke to multiple suppressor manufacturers. They've been making them as fast as they can make them. And they've been trying to stack stock back. But I'm going to tell you, there ain't going to be enough of them. And come January 2026, they're going to liquidate all that stock in the first couple months. And then that price is going to ramp up. They will be unobtainium for a period of time. And I'm telling you already, before this was even announced, there were manufacturers that, okay, I use one specific distributor for some items that would send emails and be like, hey, look, We've got a drop of these coming tomorrow at noon. Every manufacturer, every retailer can buy 2 of those items per 24-hour period, and then we'll see you in 24 hours after that. The most that I've ever bought of, like, for instance, the Energetic Arms Vox is one of those. The most that I've ever been able to purchase of those is 6 items in any given drop because they just can't make enough of them. They just sell out. There's a finite supply of them, and that is not going to change. Even though they're ramping production, they're not going to be able to keep up. The price of those items is going to peak, and they're just going to be expensive. And then eventually, the market will saturate. I don't know how long that will take. I'm saying conservative estimate, somewhere around 2 years. More manufacturers will come into the space, fill in the gaps as they see the demand for a product. That's just the way that works. People will rush into the market. Some of those will be awesome. Some of those will suck. I'm just telling you that the ones that you're currently looking at are going to increase in price in 2026. Okay. The wait times. Now, this is a little bit sort of funny business. We expect that the current, like, I've had some cans come back in like hours on an e-file, right? I think that those are probably going to expand. Okay. Do I think that we're going to see the 10-month waiting period type stuff? I don't think that's going to happen, particularly if the current appropriations bill is passed in its current form. Because in the current appropriations bill for the ATF budget, they don't get much of their funding if they allow the paper forms to go over 120 days or the electronic forms to go over 60 days. Now, obviously, that bill has not become law yet, and that could change. The Republicans could stab us in the back yet again. The real answer is nobody knows how bad it's going to be, but there are a couple factors that we have to consider. First of all, right now, those times that we're currently seeing with like a day or less, the demand is pretty low right now. But during peak time, we were seeing 3 to 5 days. Like back in January, before any of this shenanigans was done, about 5 or less days for a Form 4 to come back. And that was pretty much peak time. Now, the ATF is going to be working with fewer people in 2026, which is a good thing, which could also impact some things. Politics could be a problem. So if there's any malfeasance there, we have to consider that. But I think that the appropriations bill, if it stays as it is maybe going to curtail that a little bit because they don't want to shoot those numbers. But I can speak in terms of multiples. So if we say that back in January-ish, 5 days, we'll just be conservative and say 5 days. Well, if it's a 5x demand increase, well, then that's going to take 25 days. If it's 10x, then it's going to take 50 days. I don't know. So it could be realistically close to that 60-day window when it comes to those e-forms. And we know that the vast majority of people are submitting the e-forms currently. So I do believe that there will be a shift of folks to processing the e-forms because so many of them are going to come in that way. The paper forms, you might even see that get close to that 120 because they're going to shift so many people over to doing the e-forms. That is just my guess, particularly because they're going to be losing a lot of staff. Again, good thing. Second and third order of business are really two sides of the coin. Second order of business, what I'm doing locally to help my clientele, small as it is, who want to get into the suppressor market, which isn't really relevant to most of you, but I know that there are lots of shops out there that are doing expressly this thing. And third, what you can do to kind of head some of these potential problems off at the pass. To understand both of these, we have to understand what the actual making or transfer tax is and when it's collected. It is collected when you file either the Form 1, which is you asking the government for permission to make a thing, which is absolutely ridiculous, should not exist, or the transfer tax, which is, Daddy Sugar, may I please transfer this from my dealer to myself, right? That, when you submit that form to the ATF, that is when that tax is collected. If that doesn't occur, the tax is not collected. There's a whole commerce side of things that must happen before we can even get there. As in, your dealer that is going to do the forms for you and with you has to physically have the item and its serial number in their possession to be able to fill out your forms. So what can happen is the commercial side of stuff can happen before the transfer stuff happens, which means if your dealer is willing to participate, they can allow you to purchase the device, pay for it, hold it in the back until after the tax falls off, and then you can file your Form 4s. Now, the way that you go about this, and this is very important because you have to realize that from the part of the dealer, they don't have to do this sort of thing. This is extra work that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to go through hell in January if they're participating in this, because it's going to be like weeks of nothing but paperwork all day long. You walk into your local shop. First question is, are you an SOT? That means, do they pay the special occupation tax stamp to be able to deal in NFA items? If the answer is yes, you say, hey, I'm interested in this specific item. I would like you to go out and get one for me. I would like to pay you for it, and would like you to hold it in the back until the 2026 NFA tax is zeroed out. And then I'm going to come back in, we'll do the paperwork and conduct the transfer. Do not, I repeat, do not go shop at some random bargain place on the internet and send a random NFA item to a shop that you haven't discussed this previously and expect to show up and then participate even remotely close to anything that I've just described. Well, we have our own policies here about that, and that do not send me random NFA items. Like, I will Form 3 it right back. Ain't got time for that shit, and neither are these businesses going to have time to deal with that sort of stuff. So, do it the right way. I just gave you clear-cut instructions on how to do it, and if it's going to work for you. A fair number of businesses are going to be amenable to this, but you're going to have to actually be personable. You have to go show up and express yourself and how you want to do it. There's some etiquette to be followed that you may not previously have seen if you haven't dabbled in any NFA stuff previously. Do it the right way. I've given you guys some stuff to think about, chew on. Leave your specific questions as they pertain to suppressors in the comment section down below, and maybe get your own video. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see another one here at the VSO Gun Channel.